Father, Son, the Holy Spirit.
O Almighty God, our Father in heaven, from whom all goodness and truth on earth have come forth, grant to us, the Catholic community gathered at this meeting, the vision to recognize and the vigor to espouse sound principles of the educational theory and practice in a spirit of balanced judgment and the proper perspective. Give us also the courage to turn always onto the path of higher goodness in our deliberations, administrative decisions, and courses of action. Amen.
For our land acknowledgement, we are ever thankful for the wonder and sustenance that our land provides us, for the food we eat physically, and for the spiritual nourishment provided by the beauty around us. We are also all keenly aware that the land, bountiful as it is not endless in its riches, and we work to be careful stewards of it, of all resources of one another. We acknowledge and thank the Michi Sagig of the credit, our treaty partners who have been stewards of this land for generations. Together, we commit to redress past injustices by working to dismantle systems that limit freedom and work passionately and resolutely toward a time and place of collective freedom and fruitful interdependence.
Approval of the agenda, moved by Sean. Any questions? All in favor? All in favor, hands please. Any opposed? Carried. Calendar items, Daniel?
Through the chair, the calendar items are attached. So through the chair, I apologize. I thought we were on business arising. So there are no calendar items. My apologies.
Looking for them. Approval of the minutes of the Administration Finance Committee meeting, February 13th, moved by Mario Pascucci. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Awards and presentations, no delegation. Sorry, any declaration of interest? None. Awards and presentations, no delegation. Reports from trustees for receipt. Regular reports, Catholic School Trustee Association report. John or Luz?
I can take over. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the Ontario Catholic School Board Trustees Association, the only update that we do have coming forward is our AGM is coming up May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. If you are able to attend, please sign up with Michelle as rooms are getting booked up and registration is closing shortly. So ensure you get your name in. Once again, the AGM for Oxta is coming up. That's pretty much it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Sean. Mario? Muted.
Sorry.
Mario, you're muted.
If you do that every time, you get $5 to pay off your mortgage. It's crazy that keep on forgetting. Okay, what's happening is that the urban large boards have a subcommittee, if you will, of the trustees association. The minutes are going to be approved at the AGM, and then when they're approved, I'll turn them over to Luz, and we'll have a summary that's been discussed in terms of large board issues. So that's all I want to mention. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mario.
Mr. Chair, may I add something too, please?
Go ahead, Luz.
Thank you. I have sent all the invitation to attend the director's performance appraisal to all of you. So if you get the chance to sign up, please sign up. There are 3 dates that you can sign up. This is the ministry is doing the webinar. So any information that we can get is very important for us trustees to do that. So I just want to encourage you, if you have time, please do. I did sign up for April 17th, I think. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Luz. Any good news stories? Hearing none, seeing none. Daniel, first order of business.
Thank you and good evening through the chair. Just a reminder to all trustees that are present in person to speak directly into the microphone to make sure everybody online and watching virtually hear us. So we're on to section E, which are reports from committee and administration for receipt. Our first item is E1, which is the student transportation update and service delivery report found on page 12 of your agenda. And I invite Superintendent Thomas to present.
Good evening through the chair. I am actually going to invite General Manager of StopR, Anna Gentila, to present this evening's student transportation update report.
Thank you, Superintendent Thomas, and through you, Mr. Chair. Before you is the Student Transportation Update and Service Delivery Report. Beginning with the bus driver update. At this time, the bus operators for both StopR and STWDSTS are reporting that they have enough drivers to service all of our routes. As always, both consortiums will continue to monitor bus service daily to ensure that any potential issues are identified and dealt with proactively. The next item is in regard to the Chipmunk School Bus Tracking app. As written in the report, the pilot testing of the school bus tracking app has identified some important issues that require adjustments. Our technical team has been meeting with the vendor to see if these challenges can be rectified before moving forward. The app continues to be available for pilot schools and their communities, and we will provide further updates as they become available. The next item is in regards to Intertrain School Bus Safety Program. Every year, school bus safety training is provided to approximately 50% of our elementary schools. This year, there were 64 schools identified to receive school bus safety training. As of March 2024, bus safety training sessions have been delivered to 58 schools in the Dufferin-Peel Catholic District School Board. The next item is the date for our annual First Time Rider program. StopR can confirm that our next First Time Rider program will be held on Saturday, August 24, 2024. The sessions will be presented at approximately 8 school sites scattered throughout Peel region. Once the locations are confirmed, they will be communicated in our upcoming spring newsletter, as well as posted on our website and Twitter account. We will also share the date for the schools in Orangeville once it is known. Final item on the transportation update is the tracking of school bus delays. StopR has provided graphs showing the number of delays per week in the months of February and March 2024. We have also listed the top 3 schools with the most delays in those months. In the report, you will see a brief summary of the reasons for the delays and the actions taken by staff to improve service delivery. This concludes the transportation update and service delivery report, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions? Seeing none, hearing none. Daniel, next order of business.
Thank you. And through the chair, we move on to item E2, which is the annual update of the long-term facilities master plan, historical and projected enrollment for 2013 to 2033, found on page 18 of your agenda. And I'll get ahead of Superintendent Thomas on this one. I'll invite Manager Cox and Senior Planner Joanne Rogers, along with Superintendent Thomas, to present this report.
Thank you. And just through the chair, just before I turn things over to Senior Planner Rogers to walk you through the enrollment projections, historical and projections report, I just wanted to again give trustees a bit of an overview of the long-term facilities master plan and program strategy. So the long-term facilities master plan and program strategy represents a comprehensive planning document for Dufferin-Peel that will help guide capital investment, program, and facility decisions to align with the core values of Dufferin-Peel's multi-year strategic plan, and ultimately to support student achievement and well-being. Trustees would be familiar that we've been presenting iterations of the enrollment projections, historical enrollment and enrollment projections for the last few years, and that we have also provided updates on our facilities. And we do have a report forthcoming with respect to an update on our facilities after the report on enrollment. The long-term facilities master plan is intended to identify the needs throughout Dufferin Peel over the next 10 years from an enrollment and facilities perspective. And as part of the master plan, information will be presented about school size, condition, program, and utilization, as well as enrollment projections to identify overall accommodation issues. Identifying issues through this long-term facilities master plan allows us to plan proactively, prioritize next steps, and determine the impact of accommodation decisions on the system. Trustees would be aware of some of the current challenges facing school boards around some of the tools that are available, and we will also get into that as well this evening. The master plan is intended to be a living document with annual updates so that we at Dufferin Peel can adapt as needed to any changes or challenges that may arise. So with that, I'm going to invite Senior Planner Joanne Rogers to provide the update on projected enrollment trends to 2033. And then after that report, we will invite the facilities department team to provide updates as well on the state of our facilities. So with that, I'll turn things over to Senior Planner Rogers.
Long-term facilities master plan historical and projected enrollment report before you provides an overview of student enrollment trends in the Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board over the 20-year period from 2013 to 2030. The long-term enrollment projections will be the foundation in developing recommendations and presenting strategies in the long-term facilities master plan for the Board of Trustees to consider in addressing future enrollment changes at the elementary and secondary panels. Additionally, the enrollment projections will guide Dufferin Peel in establishing a list of capital priorities to be submitted to the Ministry of Education upon request. Overall, Dufferin Peel is expected to experience a decline of approximately 4.82%, or 3,442 total students over the next 10 years, which is comprised of a decline of approximately 2,200 elementary students and 1,185 secondary students. It is important to note that although Dufferin Peel experiences overall enrollment decline, that there are areas within the board that experience enrollment growth. On the bottom of page 18 of the agenda package, the chart shows a comparison of actual October 31st, 2022 enrollment to actual October 2023. There was a board-wide decline of 983 students, or minus 1.36%. As in previous years, this decline can be attributed to many factors, including admission and demission of students year over year, families emigrating from the jurisdiction of Dufferin Peel, and changing demographics in Peel. At the top of page 19, the report speaks to the admits and demits for the 2022-2023 school year. Admits are new students to the Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board, and demits are Dufferin Peel students who are no longer with the board. While the overall enrollment from October 31st, 2022 to October 31st, 2023 showed an actual enrollment change of 983 students, throughout the school year, students come and go. Overall, there were 10,500 admits or new students to Dufferin Peel, including new kindergarten students, and there were 10,900 students who left the board over the course of the school year, including grade 12 students who graduated from the school. Of these admits and demits, there were 2,700 admits to Dufferin Peel from the Peel District School Board and 342 demits to Peel District School Board from Dufferin Peel over the course of the 2020. Starting on page 20 of the report, I will present the overview of the overall enrollment trends for the board and then break this down by municipality. The chart shows a comparison of the enrollment to the capacity. The blue section of the graph represents the historic and projected enrollment, and the gray line represents the on-the-ground capacity of the board. See from this chart that the overall board capacity exceeds the enrollment. The green chart on page 20 provides the specific enrollment capacity data that make up the graph. In 2013, the board-wide enrollment was 83,518 students, with an OTG, or an on-the-ground capacity, of 86,000 and utilization of 97%. For For the last 10 years, enrollment declined to 71,440 students. Operates at a utilization of 81%, currently has 16,848 surplus. For the next 10 years, the board-wide enrollment is expected to decline by another 3,400 students, 8,000. Have an expected utilization of 77%, with 20,725 surplus. Page 21 shows the projected elementary enrollment in the city of Brampton. New provincial housing targets have allocated 113,000 new residential units to the city of Brampton, with the majority of the housing allocated to low density, with the remaining split between medium density and high density residential. Large areas slated for intensification growth generate the need for new, while other areas of Brampton continue to experience. This graph shows a gray line for the OTG, as well as a green line that is the on-the-ground capacity plus RCMs and porta-packs. Capacity continues to exceed enrollment at the elementary level in Brampton. Since 2013, elementary enrollment has declined by 3,367 students. Elementary enrollment is projected to continue to decline by another 702 students, 14,981, and operate at 68% utilization with over 7,000 surplus spaces over the next. Page 22 illustrates the changes in secondary enrollment in Brampton. 2013, the secondary enrollment in the city of Brampton was 12,870 students. In 2023, the actual enrollment was 11,483 secondary, 1,387 less students than in 2033. Enrollment projections indicate a secondary enrollment of 10,417 students, with 1,000 or minus 9. Enrollment no longer exceeds capacity at the secondary panel. In the city of Mississauga, provincial housing targets allocated 120,000 new residential units to the city, with approximately 80% as high-density units. Historically, high-density units have not yielded a high number of students for different existing areas of new residential development. South Mississauga are attributing to projected growth in the communities of Port Credit and Lakeview. Enrollment is expected to decline approximately minus 11.26% the elementary panel and minus 3.89% secondary panel over the next 10 years, as illustrated in charts 3 and 4 on page 23. Referring to chart 3 and the associated table for the elementary panel in Mississauga. 2013, the elementary enrollment was 26,870 students. 2023, Dufferin Peel reported an actual enrollment of 21,496 elementary students, 5,374 fewer students than in 2013. 2033 enrollment projections indicate a further decline to 19,077 elementary students, which is an additional decrease of 2,419 students over the next 10 years. Chart 4 on page 24 shows a secondary enrollment in the city of Mississauga, which was 18,508 in 2013 and declined by 2,360 to 16,148 students, or 95% utilization in 2020. In 2033, enrollment is projected to further decline to 15,520 students with a utilization of 91%, or 1,496 surplus spaces. The town of Caledon, however, continues to experience residential growth. If you refer to the charts on page 25, you will see the elementary enrollment is expected to increase by approximately 31.6%, or by 922 students. Combination of new development growth and higher than average student yields contribute to this increased enrollment. In Dufferin County, new residential development continues to occur. The current utilization rate is 102%, and the enrollment trends are expected to remain stable. Charts on page 26 show that the enrollment has grown to 1,349 students from 2013 and is projected to decrease slightly by minus 4.3%, or by 58 students. The secondary enrollment for Dufferin County and the town of Caledon has increased from 1,989 students in 2013 to 2,365 students in 2023. The enrollment is projected to increase by 21.52% or 509 students over the next 10 years. In conclusion, the overall enrollment at Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board is expected to decline by minus 4.82% over the next 10 years. The anticipated decline for the elementary panel is minus 5.45%, and the expected decline for secondary is minus 3.95%. The long-term facilities master plan will address enrollment changes through the recommendation of new pupil places through new schools or additions, through boundary adjustments and program changes or pupil accommodation guidelines. That concludes the report on the long-term enrollment projections. Manager Cox and I would be happy.
Thank you, Joanne. Any questions? Daryl?
You, Mr. Chair. Thank you for this report. It's pretty detailed. Gives a lot of information. My question is from 2013 to 2023. We lost approximately 12,000 students overall. And from 23 to 33, we are anticipating a loss of just 3,000 students. Any reason why we're being so optimistic about it?
Through the chair, while there is more residential development that is coming on stream. We've taken into account more municipal forecast information. There have been larger development plans in South Mississauga, as well as our kindergarten registration has seen a bit of an increase. So that will follow through over the next 10 years.
Do we have the projections that were made in 2013 for 2023?
Daniel?
Through the chair, I think this is a common question that comes up almost every year when we go through this, is what historical projections look like year over year versus what they are now. I believe we've provided them in issues and events in the past, but we can look at doing that. We keep track of them because we have long-term plans and reports from yesteryear, and they'll, in 2013 or in 2000, projecting up to 2018. Like there's different milestones along the way that will affect enrollment projections. It's an interesting exercise to take a look at, but we do keep the historical projections versus actuals.
Trustee D'Souza, does that work for you in issues?
Yeah, I would like to see that in issues and events. But so from 13 to 23, there was no houses being built in Mississauga and Brampton, as a result of which we lost 12,000 kids. Now they've suddenly started building, so it's going to reduce from 12,000 to 3,000.
Through the chair, if I can just add some commentary to that. The original projections from 2013, looking ahead to 2023, would not have predicted the COVID-19 pandemic. Certainly that was a shock that completely changed the trajectory of where the enrollment numbers ended up going. If you were to even go back to 2018, 2019, we would not have anticipated what happened in 2020 and into through the pandemic. So I think that needs to be accounted for in terms of the significance, the scope of the change to some extent.
I agree with you. I completely agree that no one predicted the pandemic except for a few. But from 13 to 18, we did lose 3,000 kids. That's a 5-year span. Then from 18 to 23, we lost 11,000 or 10,000. Now we are saying from 23 to 33, we will lose only 3,000. That's what I cannot digest, because if in a 5-year span from 13 to 18, we lost 3,000, now we are saying over the next 10 years, we will lose only 3,000. So are we being optimistic is my question.
So through the chair, I would note a couple of things. I think our enrollment projections tend to be conservative generally. We do look at municipal development projections and we forecast yields based on the information that we get. So the information that Senior Planner Rogers provided about the fact that we do get information from City of Mississauga, City of Brampton, Town of Caledon, Dufferin County about anticipated residential developments coming on stream and the amount of units that would come into play, and then therefore how many Catholic students we would be able to get from those developments is all factored in. So it's a dynamic figure. It depends on what we see coming on stream from the municipalities. That can change quite regularly over time. It's not a static figure. And that's why we are constantly monitoring and updating the figures to take that information in. Sometimes those yields are not realized fully. And that could also be the result of delays in getting some residential developments approved and construction built. We've seen that in some of our neighborhoods where forecasts that we made for yields to come on stream, students to come into those neighborhoods, has not happened because there have been delays at the municipal level in terms of granting site plan approval and building permits. And so this is all information that's taken into account and updated on a continual basis. So that accounts for some of the change, but certainly, you know, your point, Trustee D'Souza, is well taken. I'm not minimizing that. I'm just saying that there are factors that are taken into account for why there could be changes over time.
Trustee Pascucci, then Nathan.
I'll pass, Mr. Chairman. The question's been answered. Thank you.
Nathan, go ahead, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Thank you for the report. I'm looking at page 27 on the agenda right now, where we have our projections for Caledon and Dufferin County. I see that from 2023 to 2033, we're moving from 2,365 kids to 2,874 students, which is a 21.52% increase. So are we going to be using any of these data to potentially build a new school in the county of Caledon/Dufferin?
Through the chair, thank you for the question. We are always monitoring enrollments in the Dufferin and Caledon area. We do know that there is growth. Sorry, that over here. We do know that there is a great deal of growth coming. As developments come in, we will look to perhaps reserving a site in the future for an elementary school site, but it'll all depend on how fast the enrollments come on and whether or not we can find a site in a large enough development. And we want to make sure it's suitable so that we can capture the greatest boundary for the schools.
Go ahead.
Thank you for that. And I'm also noticing that by 2033, we're also expecting to have a deficit in spaces for our students. So in the case that we do have a deficit, what is going to happen for the students? Are they going to be moving to a school in the closest region, such as Brampton, or what's going to happen to them?
Through the chair, there are options to add additions to schools through the Capital Priorities Program. And once again, we'll continue to monitor that to ensure that, you know, there will eventually be enough space for these students, whether it be through an addition, temporary accommodation, readjustment of boundaries, or potentially a new school.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mario, I see you have your hand up. Is that just a legacy hand or?
The
you have a
legacy
question?
hand, Mr. Chairman. Sorry about that. No
Okay.
questions.
Any other questions? See none. Thank you very much to the team. Daniel?
Thank you through the chair. Moving on to the second part of the long-term facilities master plan, which is item E3 on the agenda, the long-term facilities master plan facilities update, which begins on 73 or page 73 of your agenda package. I invite Superintendent Thomas and General Manager Mariah to present the report.
Thank
Take a
you,
second to
Associate
transition from one to the other.
Thank you, Associate Director Del Bianco. I was just going to point out, we just appreciate a moment of patience, appreciate your patience as we just do a little bit of a musical chairs here with staff coming up to join me. So coming up to join me actually this evening will be General Manager Mariah, and Manager of Environmental Support Services, Edward Kai. As Associate Director Del Bianco has already indicated, the facilities update is the second part of our long-term facilities master plan update for this evening for trustees. And as I noted earlier, it's an overview of the current and projected state of Dufferin Peel's school facilities. And this includes strategies that Dufferin Peel will take as we monitor the availability and adequacy of our student accommodations for ongoing capital planning and investments to ensure that our school facilities are well positioned to support student achievement and well-being for the coming years. At the bottom of page 73, trustees would already be familiar with the age of our Dufferin Peel school facilities. We've got 151 schools across our district, 125 elementary and 26 secondary. And trustees would be aware of the general range of age, with many of the schools, a significant number being built in the 1980s and 1990s. And what that means is that a lot of our schools are no longer considered brand new. We are now past the point, in fact, well past the point, I would say, of many significant end-of-life repair needs that are required to ensure that we keep our schools in a state of good repair. So you will hear from us this evening about the requirements for ongoing capital investment, maintenance upgrades, and renewal. As we move into page number 74 of the report, there is information about on-the-ground capacity. In the previous report, you would have heard Senior Planner Rogers talk about on-the-ground capacity as a measure that is set by the Ministry of Education used to identify the capacity of the bricks and mortar school building, the permanent schools, permanent school spaces that we have. It does not include any temporary accommodation structures such as porta-pack, relocatable classroom modules or RCMs, and portables. So it basically is the amount of students that a permanent structure of a building can accommodate in terms of instructional space. The loading of classrooms does differ between elementary and secondary panels, as well as by room type. There's a chart in the middle of page 74 that provides a breakdown. At the bottom of page 74 is information about Dufferin Peel's temporary accommodations. And as I've noted already, we have portables, we have porta-packs, and we have relocatable classroom modules. There's information about the 279 portables that we have in the system, a good number of which have been deemed surplus. And our facilities team continues to do its best in terms of trying to maintain the inventory that we need and also to replenish with newer upgraded air-conditioned portables. Many of the portables in our system were purchased in the 1980s, if you can believe it, that are still being used. And that is because of the great work of the maintenance team in terms of keeping them in a state of good repair. However, that said, as you can see on page 75, we continue to face ongoing maintenance challenges with our existing fleet of portables, many of which require a lot of maintenance. And there are costs to the boards and to our board in terms of annual inspections, mold remediation, energy consumption costs that are higher than normal, as well as ongoing structural maintenance and repair. Just over the last 2 years, we've spent over $400,000 for portable inspections, mold remediation, and repairs. As a result of these ongoing challenges with portables and to try and improve the quality of the learning environment for our students, we have been embarking upon a campaign of modernizing our portable accommodations. Over the last few years, since 2020, we've now added 32 new portables that are fully air-conditioned into our fleet. This represents the first investment in new portables in a significant period of time at Dufferin Peel, and it is our commitment to continue to use available funding at our disposal to continue this process of replenishing and modernizing our fleet of portables. In terms of porta-packs, the definition of porta-packs of what they are is provided at the bottom of page 75. trustees, I'm sure, would already be quite familiar with what they are. We have 12 porta packs in our inventory. And as our board-wide enrollment continues to decline, our intent is to try and remove those porta packs no longer required, many of which are sitting either vacant or partially vacant. And it is our intention, as again, where funding is available to us, to try and ensure that we can remove portables. You can see on page 76 timelines where we have been able to identify porta packs at schools and the schedule for trying to remove porta packs, many of which are still to be determined. Reason for that is because it is subject to funding that we can use. And funding for removing porta packs is a bit of a gray area for us. We are trying to use a portion of the school renewal allocation that the ministry gives to us. And trustees would be familiar that in the past we were able to use proceeds of disposition when we made that request of the Ministry of Education. However, given the current financial challenges of the board, the ministry is not as receptive to that request as it might have been in the past. However, we are going to continue to engage with ministry staff about trying to do that. In the middle of page 76 is information about relocatable classroom modules with a description of what they are. We currently have 17 RCMs, and trustees would see in the chart at the bottom of page 76 the schools that have them, the number of classrooms, and capacity, and the years built. And at this time, these RCMs are all indicating an estimated year of removal of TBD, to be determined. Again, we are trying our best to assess where the opportunities are that we might be able to remove those, and where we can, subject to available funding, we will ensure that we do take those steps. Moving on to page 77, just to add a little bit of extra context to the removal of temporary accommodations. The Ministry of Education actually does provide dedicated funding for that purpose, and it's through a grant called the Temporary Accommodation Grant, TAG. However, that grant also is what Dufferin Peel uses to fund leases, to lease space that's used for alternative education programs, and also for leasing instructional space, basically in non-Dufferin Peel owned facilities. So when that is stripped away, that portion of the temporary accommodation grant, it does not leave very much for us to be able to use to actually demolish or remediate or even take care of removing any of that temporary accommodation space that we have on hand, which is part of the challenge that we're currently facing in terms of addressing this pressing need. Moving on to page 77 is information about closed schools. There are currently 7 schools in our inventory that were closed by the Board of Trustees over the period of many years following pupil accommodation reviews or as a result of new school construction. 2 schools have been declared surplus for disposal over the last little while in the chart that's noted on page 77, while 5 schools continue to be in use by the board. And the information about the uses of these closed schools is provided in the chart along with the current status. At the top of page 78 is information that trustees would already be likely familiar with, that the planning department back in 2020 engaged with users of space at these facilities, these closed schools, engaged users of space from other departments, including our ICT department, our adult and continuing education department, Indigenous programs, and archives to assess current and future space requirements with an objective of examining opportunities to make more efficient use of space across these facilities. The exercise was initiated to determine the possibility of consolidating some of these uses with a view towards potentially declaring some of these facilities as surplus to the needs of the board in accordance with the letter of direction from the Ministry of Education. At this time, plans to consolidate departmental programs are continuing. Continuing on page 78, information about secondary school fields. In 2022, Dufferin Peel commissioned a third-party vendor to assess the current condition and usage of all secondary school sports fields. This report was commissioned in part because of a request from the Board of Trustees to obtain further information about the adequacy of our secondary school sports fields and opportunities to seek potential improvements and upgrades, whether through investments on our own at Dufferin Peel or through partnerships with other parties. In 2023, the Dufferin Peel obtained approval from the ministry to use proceeds of disposition revenues of $2 million to partner with the City of Mississauga on the redevelopment of Annika Park next to Ascension of Our Lord Catholic Secondary School to include a new lit sports field and track that would serve the school community and residents in the Malton area. I am pleased to note that an open house was held in March at Ascension, and planning is now underway with the City of Mississauga taking the lead, and with construction anticipated to begin in late spring 2024. As always, our facilities team and our planning team will continue to explore potential opportunities to upgrade existing secondary sports fields. And as you may hear from me this evening, a recurring theme is that it's subject to available funding in order for us to proceed in these efforts. So with that, I am going to turn things over now to General Manager of Facilities, Richard Mariah, to continue on page number 78 of the report.
Thank you, Superintendent Thomas. Through the chair. Continue at the bottom of page 78, keeping our schools in a state of good repair. Since 2011, the Ministry of Education has mandated a school condition assessment program for each open operating school building that is at least 5 years old. And that assessment is done once every 5 years. Under the program, since its inception, approximately 30 Dufferin Peel schools were assessed annually. Like all our schools were assessed during two cycles, 2011 to 2015 and 2015 to 2020. Due to COVID-19, inspections were suspended for 2021 and 2022. The third assessment cycle has commenced this school year and will continue over the next 5-year period. These assessments are conducted by a ministry contracted independent third party and include the architectural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and exterior site elements of each building. Moving over to page 79, once each school is assessed, it is assigned a Facility Condition Index number, or FCI, which is calculated as a percentage of the total 5-year renewal needs of a school compared to the value of replacing the entire building using the ministry current construction cost benchmark. The average FCI rating of Dufferin Peel facilities based on the most recent assessments is 23%, and they range from 67% to 0.27%. FCIs across all Ontario schools that have been assessed is 32%. Appendix 1 of this report provides school-by-school FCI ranking for Dufferin Peel schools from highest to lowest. Since 2016, the ministry has used the FCI number of schools to inform the School Condition Improvement Grant. This funding is intended to allow school boards the ability to address school renewal needs that are depreciable in nature, such as windows, roofs, boilers, HVAC, plumbing systems, etc. For the current 2023-2024 school year, Dufferin Peel has been allocated $25.9 million in FCI funding. On page 80, below the chart, a list of facility renewal criteria is outlined for your information. In addition, the renewal backlog is also noted, whereby based on the last full year of finalized reports in 2020, total estimated costs to address Dufferin Field repairs and other school building components or needs over the next 5 years is approximately $345 million. It would be reasonable to estimate that since that time, the Dufferin Field renewal backlog would now be well more than $350 million. As our school buildings continue to age, and the largest group of them being constructed between 1996 and 2005, 46 in total, more intensive renewal and maintenance will be required. Breakdown of the building components that make up the greatest portion of the identified backlog is displayed on the chart on page 81. Investments in infrastructure during the 2023-2024 school year, which is in addition to renewal projects funded by the 2 grants, Dufferin Field completed 3 major capital projects. Child care renovations at Our Lady of Mercy's Catholic Elementary School and San Lorenzo Ruiz Catholic Elementary School, and the restoration renovation of St. Leonard Catholic Elementary School. Construction and preparations are on the way in progress for the new 435 pupil place Monk Pleasant Catholic Elementary School, as well as the new replacement 503 pupil place St. Anne Catholic Elementary School. Continuing on page 81 towards the bottom, the last paragraph, is an outline of our Dufferin Field ventilation optimization program. And the key highlights of those are as follows: enhanced maintenance. Our board and house maintenance staff continue to perform HVAC assessments and repairs to ensure that all mechanical systems are fully operational prior to the new school year, of course, and throughout the year. Filter upgrades. Filter changes continue for all ventilation systems using MERV 13 air filters, and the changes are 5 times annually. Operating our systems for a longer ventilation program period. The operation schedule of ventilation units remains the same, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Each HEPA units, air scrubbers, a total of more than 3,000 HEPA units have been employed in the learning spaces in elementary schools, FDK classrooms, portable classrooms that are in use, self-contained classrooms, and the libraries of secondary schools. We will continue to operate and maintain those HEPA units. Now I will ask Manager of Environmental Services, Edward Kai, to continue with the energy management.
Thank you very much, General Manager Morea. Good evening, everyone. Through the chair, I'm glad to provide some updates on energy management in 2023. The report already contains a large volume of information, so I'm just highlighting a few points here, starting from page 82. The performance review for the last 5 years from 2018 to 2023 reveals overall energy reduction of nearly 20 million equivalent kilowatt hour and a cost avoidance of $6.5 million. This is quite an accomplishment since the savings were achieved against the actual demands due to the COVID-19 pandemic. For example, as General Manager Morea just mentioned, we are happy to provide a better ventilation to the school, to the kids, but we need to pay for that. We're also very happy to provide full air conditioning to 15 schools. And so that's also driving up our energy consumption. So in these 3 years, the impact of a pandemic kind of overshadow or drafted the energy conservation effort. But the good news is that starting from 2023, the upward trend has been turned around and our energy consumption have gone down for 6%. 6% is quite a bit reduction. So it's indicate our efforts, continuing efforts on energy conservation become noticeable again, evident again. So it's a general updates on performance. The next update is on page 87 and 88, just regarding the energy price. 2 points I would like to emphasize here. One is the federal carbon tax. As we know, for this year is gone up by 23%, starting from April 1st. So it's out of control. Each year is going up. So one fact is now the carbon tax itself accounts for about 38.5% of the total natural gas price. So what does it mean? It's more than the commodity itself. Commodity price is only account for 25%, plus transportation from Alberta to Ontario, it's 10%. Put these two together, 35%. So the tax is more than commodity plus the transportation. So it's quite significant. Another highlight is water. Water in the past 5 years just keep going up and has been gone up for 45%. And starting from this year, sorry, it's also starting from April 1st. It's coincident. And they introduced a new charge kind of a platform or structure. So it's a new water service delivery charge will be starting, already started April 1st, 2024. So in summary, we have in the past 5 years, we have managed to keep the annual utility cost below $20 million. If you compare the total utility costs in 2023, compared with 2018, although all the inflation increase and extra demand, our total utility cost remain virtually is the same. So even the break even is quite a bit something. So it also indicates energy conservation will play an even more important role than ever to counterbalance the actual demand for energy consumption and also the rising prices on utilities. Move on, continue to page 88. It's regarding the energy initiative. At the Dufferin Pier, we continue implementing retrofit projects, operational optimization, and awareness training. We're particularly proud of our school community. For example, all of our schools, 151 schools registered with Eco School program. We also have 111 schools participating in the school energy challenges, and 119 schools for Earth Hour, and 121 schools for National Sweater Day during the winter time. We're so proud of them. It's a collective effort and through the Dufferin Pier community on sustainability. So the board energy team recently released a newsletter to all trustees and all staff, as well as to the public. And I just want to showcase our performance and the strategy on energy management and sustainability. The last update is regarding the incentive. Energy incentive is extra cash as money received from IESO, Enbridge, for variety of energy projects. And up to last year, up to now, the cumulated amount of that incentive is $2.3 million. It's an increase of $300,000 from last year's report. This extra money has gone to our bottom line. It's a little bit of contribution from energy team, energy management. Thank you very much. That's it for me.
Thank you, Manager Kai. Just a couple of quick points on the energy conservation program here at Dufferin Peel. First of all, trustees would recall that Manager Kai and his team were recognized by the Independent Electricity System Operator as Dufferin Peel was awarded the Energy Manager of the Year Award for 2022 for outstanding achievement in terms of undertaking energy conservation and demand management initiatives. Quite an achievement for our school board, particularly recognizing the challenges that we faced during the pandemic with all of the initiatives that we were required to follow at the request of the Ministry of Education, as well as in an era where costs were escalating, and yet Dufferin Peel was able to still obtain that recognition. So I just wanted to highlight that for trustees. The other thing I'll also note is that we are now at the point of finalizing our next 5-year energy demand management plan, which is required to be submitted to the Ministry of Energy and Ministry of Education by July 1st, 2024. That will provide a blueprint, a roadmap for the next 5 years on all things energy management. With that, I'm going to continue on page number 90 very quickly. Another initiative that we're undertaking is the classroom shuttering program. We've continued that now that we are into the post-pandemic period. On an annual basis, our planning department staff review the utilization of each school and assess the need to shutter classrooms that may not be required to provide necessary instructional space at schools. And essentially, the shuttering of classroom would entail the reduction of a classroom or group of classrooms from being used. Schools with capacity that exceeds enrollment are the ones that are normally identified for shuttering, and staff would be reviewing enrollment and capacity in conjunction with school floor plans, conversations with principals and family of school superintendents before final decisions are made around classroom shuttering. Essentially, once the decisions are finalized about which classrooms to shutter, those classrooms are cleaned and secured, basically taken offline for the school year to limit the amount of cleaning and maintenance and to limit consumption of utilities for those spaces. Between 2017 and 2019, Dufferin Peel has shuttered approximately 300, and that I can now add based on more recent information. We have now exceeded 400 classrooms that are shuttered across the system. And information is provided at the bottom of page 90 around some of the cost containment and reduction in energy consumption that's associated with that. So in conclusion, the long-term facilities master plan facilities update provides an overview of the current and projected state of Dufferin Peel facilities over the coming years, including our strategies that have been outlined to try and support our long-term accommodation plans. And at this time, General Manager Mariah, Manager Kai, and I would be pleased to respond to any questions.
Thank you, Superintendent Thomas, and thank you to each of the presenters. Any questions? Trustee D'Souza?
Thank you for this detailed report. Manager Kai mentioned something about 38.5% increase or being the cost of carbon tax, is it?
Yeah, that's for example, if $1 is paid for the natural gas cost and 38.5 cents pay for the federal carbon tax.
This includes the increase on 1st April.
Yeah, starting from April 1st.
How much was it prior to 1st April?
25 cents pay for the natural gas commodity itself, and 10 cents pay for the transportation from Alberta to Ontario. So these two put together 35 cents, but the carbon tax itself is 38.5 cents.
I understand, but how much was it prior to April 1st?
It's 23% increase or a hike from last year. Every year is going up every year, all the way to 2030. By that time, it's going to be quite high. The actual cost. Yeah, we have two units. Actual cost, we have a budget for this year, for 2024, 2035. Yeah, the actual cost is 42 cents per cubic meter.
No, my question is, how much was the carbon tax on 31st of March compared to the $1 that we used to pay?
Yeah, before April 1st is $3.33 per gigajoule. And now is $4.1 per gigajoule. It's a 23% increase of the tax. If we account for calculated total cost, it's going to be 80% increase for the total natural gas price affected by the hike.
Okay. Thank you. Associate Director, do we have or can we produce an ESG report for Dufferin Peel as a board, which we can actually publish on our site? Because we've got such good initiatives all on starting from environment and sustainability to social responsibility, and finally governance and ethical practice. If we can consolidate an ESG report and publish it, that would be very helpful, and it would probably, we would be the first one in the education sector in the province that has this kind of a report.
Through the chair, absolutely. We will look into it. We'll work with corporate communications as well to see what we can do. And as you mentioned, as Executive Superintendent Chair Paca kind of leaned over, said we would be probably the first school board to do it, so, which is not a bad thing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Hearing none, seeing none. If I could just add a brief comment. I was at the Mississauga Board of Trade one day last week, I'll say Wednesday for the sake of an argument. And I happened to meet up with a gentleman just out of conversation that worked for Electra. And I can tell you that he asked me if I knew Mr. Kai. He didn't ask me about anybody else, but he said to me that Dufferin Peel is at the forefront of conserving energy. And he mentioned Mr. Kai directly. So I was quite proud. And then when I saw you tonight, I figured this is a good opportunity to say thank you for everything that you do, as well as each of you, because I know that each of you have your own fortes. But on behalf of my colleagues, each of you, thank you very much. Daniel, next order of business.
Thank you, and through the chair, we move on to item E4, which is the update to our permits rate for next school year, 24-25. That begins on page 95 of your report, and I invite Superintendent Thomas and team to present the report.
Thank you, Associate Director Del Bianco, and through the chair. As Associate Director has noted, the report can be found beginning at page number 95. And I am being joined by General Manager Financial Services, Carrie Salemi, and Supervisor Facility Rentals, Laura Iaboni. The Ministry of Education has established a requirement for all schools to be charging cost recovery rates to external community user groups for the use of space at school board facilities through permits, childcare licenses, and community partnership leases. Dufferin Peel has a successful, long-standing tradition of renting out the use of space in school facilities through permits to a wide variety of user groups. These groups include various nonprofit youth and seniors groups, recreational adult athletic groups, commercial enterprises, Catholic Church community groups, and affiliated entities, among others. The Ministry of Education does provide some funding to school boards to offset the costs for youth nonprofit groups to rent out school space. This does help keep costs down for these groups. However, the permit rates currently charged by Dufferin Peel to these user groups are not sufficient to cover our actual operating costs. These operating costs include staffing costs associated with cleaning and maintenance, supplies, and administrative services associated with providing these spaces. In fact, the last adjustment to permit rates occurred back in the 2019-2020 school year, 5 years back. At that time, both Dufferin Peel and the Peel District School Board had been working together on a gradual, multi-year phase-in of rate adjustments to move rates towards full cost recovery. However, the pandemic required us to pause those plans. Furthermore, the pandemic also restricted Dufferin Peel's ability to offer permits to community groups with all of the various shutdowns and public health restrictions that were in place. Fast forward to this year. Over the past few months, staff from both Dufferin Peel and the Peel District School Board have been working collaboratively to establish proposed new harmonized permit rates that would be applied consistently across both boards beginning in September 2024. Appendix A on page 98 presents the proposed permit rates for the various defined user groups for the 2024-2025 school year, as well as a comparison with the current rates that are being charged right now in the 2023-2024 school year. The rate adjustments have been set to account for recent increases in collective agreement salaries and benefits for employees, as well as increases to maintenance and supply costs, etc. Please note that permit fees associated with the rental of specific school spaces will continue not to be charged to users in Category A under the proposed pricing model starting in September 2024. And again, that's for Category A. Even with these proposed new rates, community user groups will find that Dufferin Peel schools will continue to be reasonably priced for renting out, especially when compared to what equivalent spaces would cost at municipal centers and other community organizations. Dufferin Peel has already posted messages to all existing and potential user groups to advise of the review of existing permit rates that is currently underway and the potential for adjustments in the near future. Both Dufferin Peel and the Peel District School Board will continue to review rates on a regular basis and are committed to remaining aligned on rates going forward. This concludes our report. Again, I've got General Manager Carrie Salemi and Supervisor Laura Iaboni here with me, and we are happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you, Superintendent Thomas. Any questions? Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, seeing none. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciate the presentation to each and every one of you. And Daniel, the next order of business.
Thank you. And through the chair, we move on to section F, which are reports from committees and administration requiring action. And we are at F1, operating borrowing resolution. And I invite Superintendent Chair Apaka to present the report, which begins on page 100 of your agenda.
Lee?
Good evening, everyone. Dufferin Peel Catholic District School Board has an operating borrowing resolution in place. It was approved by the Board of Trustees in 2010. which authorizes borrowing up to $150 million. Under this approved limit, Dufferin Peel has a line of credit in place for $80 million. For many years, Dufferin Peel never had a reason to borrow funds despite having this line of credit in place and available. However, in recent years, we have utilized the line of credit extensively with an average daily borrowing use of about $5 million. The chart that shows our average daily use, well, actually our use, is on page 102. When you average out all the different uses, it comes to an average of $5 million. The chart shows the borrowing for the last year. In the next few months, Dufferin Peel will be looking to facilitate 2 site acquisitions that would utilize a combination of educational development charge revenue and operating line of credit. The Ministry of Education has already sent approvals for these land acquisitions. The current borrowing resolution in place does not include language that would specifically reference land acquisition. Therefore, in order to access the line of credit for the site acquisition process, should that come to fruition, we are presenting an updated operating borrowing resolution. There is no change to the authorized limit of $150 million, just adding land acquisition language so that it's specifically identified in the resolution. A copy of this updated resolution is shown on page 103, last page of your agenda. And in addition to this, we have had, as we do, regular discussions with our current banking partner, and we have discussed and agree that a separate borrowing resolution for EDC use funds, use of the EDC funds would be our next step. And that would be reviewed once we finish the process of the EDC bylaw renewal process that's coming up this year. However, in the interim, we do need to update the operating borrowing resolution just to include language with regards to land acquisition. And there is a motion to this report. I'm happy to take questions.
Question?
Question.
Go ahead, Herman.
Thank you. You mentioned that you didn't borrow in previous years. Can you tell me the reason why now it's necessary for that?
Yes, absolutely. So in previous years, aside from the borrowing for debentures that we used to do, now all of that is facilitated through the ministry as well. We've never had to borrow because we had accumulated surplus funds that we could draw on to do whatever transactions we needed to do that were perhaps in excess of what we had available from ministry funding at the time. But we do no longer have accumulated surplus, and the funding calendar from the ministry is kind of up and down. We get transfer payments once a month. We get our tax payments quarterly. So there are times when we do need to borrow more, and the fact that we're in deficit now when we weren't previously.
Thank you.
Herman? Any other questions? Hearing none, seeing none. Motion on page 101. Following recommendation is provided for consideration. That the Administration and Finance Committee recommend to the Board of Trustees the approval of the operating borrowing resolution. Moved by Trustee Herman Valeria. Any questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Thank you. Through the chair, we have no additional business. So we move on to item H, which is questions asked by trustees.
Colleagues, any questions that you may have?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mario, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you to the Madam Director, if I may, there's been an increasing coverage regarding lunches and breakfasts at schools in the province of Ontario. Recently, even the federal government got involved. Through you to the Director, Madam Director, do we have any statistics we can share in terms of with the community, with trustees, how many students breakfast packages that are out there, et cetera, and what schools are involved and things like that nature. Is it possible to come up with a report of that in the reasonable future, realizing where this is coming from?
Through the chair, the federal government recently announced a food program for schools. And as a result of that announcement, I have asked staff in anticipation that trustees might be interested in that information to put together a brief survey to distribute to our schools to get some sense of how many nutrition programs or lunch programs or breakfast programs are being offered in our schools and whether or not how they're being provided, how they're being funded. So I anticipate being able to bring that information forward to trustees in the next few weeks.
Well, thank you for taking the initiative, Madam Chairman. Sorry, Madam Director. Bruno, thank you.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Nathan, sorry, my apologies. Trustee D'Souza, then Nathan, then.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair, I have two questions. First one is, we agreed or decided on what messages will be put on our school signboards, the electronic signboards outside our school?
Through the chair, I believe we've sent out communication identifying what messages continuously scroll. I'm just sorry, I'm looking at General Manager Campbell here. We have sent out communication in the past, and if memory serves me right, it's not only the school information, it's also the information of the local trustee or trustees and their contact information.
Is that being followed?
Through the chair, I would like to believe it's being followed, but in the event that it's not, because we've had turnover at schools, we would rectify that, and we could do so with a follow-up communication to the system, just reminding them of what should be included on the school site signs, the boulevard signs.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager Campbell, and thank you, Associate Director. Second question. We have a policy on parents attending inter-school sporting activities in the gym. Because I had a complaint from a parent who wanted to attend her son's chess tournament, and she went to the school where her son was participating in the event, and she was turned back. Called me and she said that she knew another parent from another school within our school board was allowed to attend sporting event in their school. She was refused. So do we have two policies? Or
Through the chair, we don't. And I know this has been raised a few times by various other trustees. And we have sent some messaging out to resolve that. Parents should be able to come and view their children playing. Now, sometimes it's a capacity issue, and ways in which some of the schools were going to deal with it was almost like an excursion. If you to get confirmation from the parent that they were going to attend so that we can manage the numbers. But having said that, I'll follow up tomorrow. If you want to just maybe offline, send me the name of the school and I can follow up.
there's an email actually which I received which said that I've been given to understand that 4 out of our 7 superintendents manage parts of our board. 4 out of 7 allow parents, we don't. So it's not a standard policy right now. That needs to be rectified, and I will send you this complaint that I received from this.
Thank you.
Spoke to me and then she sent me an email.
Thank you. I'll follow up.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Student Superintendent. Student Trustee Nathan.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. What's our current policy, or sorry, not policy, process in implementing cafeteria prices at the beginning of each school year? And the reason why I'm asking that is because I've had a lot of students reach out to us three, and express their concerns about the expensive cafeteria prices. So what's our current process with that?
So the cafeteria contract would dictate what the prices are, especially as they started this year. And I believe, I don't have it in front of me, but the contract would require a meeting with the board supply chain staff if they are going to look at introducing any price increases. So I can look into that and provide an update around that. I can get you information, but right now, if there is an increase, and I believe they have it's okay in the contract to be able to increase to a limit, but they have to meet with us first.
Great, thank you, thank you. Are we also going to be consulting any student senate or CCCSC or any parent groups during this process on which they are increasing the prices just to get more input? Because I know that it affects like the students and the parents the most, because I don't know, I'm paying $2 for a cookie every single day at school. It's quite expensive. So are we going to be like consulted or getting feedback from students or parents?
So there was quite a consultative process involved with the initial contract with the cafeteria providers that were set up, and we have 3 different ones. As long as they're adhering to the contract language, then we wouldn't actually be looking, we can take feedback and definitely reach out. We have the survey coming up very soon that will be going out to students, parents, community. So we'll get feedback that way as well. And then at any other time, obviously, we're happy to take your input with regards to what you're experiencing with the cafeteria, but a full consultative process is probably not going to happen until the end of this contract comes up. But in the meantime, the survey will be coming out that I'll make sure that you have access to it. It should go to all students, but I'll make sure you know when it's coming out, and trustees, that you'll know when the survey is coming out, and that's one way to gather the feedback that anyone would have right now.
Great, thank you so much, Superintendent Charapaco.
And Trustee Valoria, then Trustee Del Rosario.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through the chair. Parent asked me this question and I wasn't sure of the answer. Where a parent has children in both systems, with the separate school board and with the public school board, how are they considered? Are they separate? Are they both public school supporter and separate school supporters?
Through the chair, is this elementary or
No,
secondary?
you have a parent who has child in elementary and in the appeal board, and a child in high school with us. So what sport do they give? Are they
Through the chair, in that scenario, if the elementary student is in the public system, then in all likelihood, they've designated their taxes to the public system.
even though the high school student attends our system?
Through the chair, that's correct. Now, recall that they changed the model for how boards are funded many, many years ago. We get funded on a per pupil basis. So even though their tax designate, their support designation might go to the public system, we're still being funded for that student that's attending our secondary school.
Okay, when it comes to voting,
When it comes to voting, they would
how-
not be voting for a Catholic school trustee.
it would be public?
That's correct.
See,
It's because of open access at secondary, trustee Valoria, that it creates that situation.
so that adds to the confusion too, because even though some parents are legitimate separate school supporters, there's a given, I think if they move residences, they automatically become public school supporters unless they are aware that the their designation has changed.
Mhm.
And they
Now,
find-
sorry for interrupting. Now, if it was a situation like our secondary schools, when they're enrolling students, also ensure that they're drawing to parents' attention that if they're qualified to direct their taxes to the separate school system, that we encourage them to do that. And what I mean by that is you may have a situation where, for whatever reason, the parents have chosen to put the elementary child who may be Catholic or the parents are Catholic in a public system, but have put the secondary student in the separate system, or in our, in our Catholic system, but they're Catholic, they do qualify to designate their taxes to the Catholic system. But my suspicion is the situation that you described, they're likely not Catholic. But because of open access, you can send your children anywhere regardless of Catholic or not. But that doesn't mean that you can designate your taxes because you don't qualify to designate your taxes to the Catholic system.
Okay.
Thank you, Herman.
Thank you.
Luz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is to Associate Director Daniel Bianco. Daniel, I'm sorry. I know I was going to email you about this, but I forgot. About a month ago, I was invited by one of my counselors and the trustee counterpart from public to observe the traffic in the Britannia and Swinburne area, where one of my school is, that I represent is, and one of the other trustees' school is too. We have had complaints from parents about the traffic. So in observing that, we noticed that our school, my school, has had so much cars, so much students being driven to school. And we found out, or I found out, that because of the French immersion. So my question is, what is the scope? So let's say this is for St. Gregory. They have French immersion, and they basically have so many cars coming in. Do we have a specific area that can sign up for that area? And also, my understanding from my counterpart in Peel Public that they provide busing. Could you please let me know why we cannot provide busing for our French immersion and public can provide busing? So I just want to clarify that, and I'm sorry I didn't send the question in advance.
No, and thank you through the chair. I know the question around FI busing comes up every couple of years.
Mhm.
I don't want to speak on behalf of the Peel Board or how they've chosen to allocate their funding. I do know the cost to transport our FI students was approximately $1.8 million on top of our transportation budget that we have right now, if we were to move in that direction.
I would like to add something further, if you don't mind, and that is that the board has a policy that was established a number of years ago that any new programs, the cost of adding any new programs would have had to have been brought forward at that time. And when FI was established, it was understood that there would not be any busing provided.
Okay. So in that case, though, how far can parents sign up in that area? Because my understanding as well is there are students going into this school that's coming all the way from North Brampton and very south of Mississauga. I'm pretty sure we have schools that has FIs in those areas, and yet they're coming this way. So do we have an area that we say, okay, for St. Gregory, this is the area that can sign up there for FI. And then going south, you have, I think, St. Pio that has also French immersion. So I just want to know, do we have a regulation? Do we have a policy that who can sign up for French immersion in what school?
To the chair, we don't put any restrictions on which French immersion site parents express an interest in because they are responsible for transporting their children. And it's quite conceivable that if you have parents that are traveling to a French immersion site that is further from the one closest to their home, it might be for care giving reasons. It might also be for convenience because they may work in the area. Again, this is because they are responsible for transportation. So we're trying to respect the challenge of parents having to drive their students or their children to a site and give them the option of choosing the site.
But it does, well, I appreciate that, Director, through the chair. If I could just add, is there any way that we could look at it? Because now the congestion in that school area, it's really, I stood there. I mean, I stood there for an hour. We were watching all this traffic that's coming through. And I tell you, the dismissal is at 2:45. At 2:15, there were already cars parked on the street in our area. This is our area. So I was just wondering, is there a possibility of us looking at maybe creating a catchment area on that French immersion issue? Because since we're not busing them, you can imagine how much cars with one child being dropped off in a school. And it was really a lot. So I'm just throwing that out there through the chair. Maybe we can think about something, and it's probably not just this school experiencing that lots of traffic and the congestion of it. But I think if there's something that we can do about it, let's try. That's all I'm asking. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Luz. Any other questions? Hearing none, seeing none. You, Daniel?
Thank you. Through the chair, we have no declared interest items. There is no in-camera session. There's no report from in-camera session. So we move on to item M, which is adjournment. And our next meeting is scheduled for June 11th, 2024.
And before we leave, on behalf of my colleagues, I want to thank everybody this evening that presented and took the time to be with us, whether you were asked the question or not. It was informative, and thank you very much. Have a good evening. Move adjournment, moved by Herman.
We're all signing up.
Well, I took the other one before. Sorry, Paula. I was thinking of you too, but moved by Herman. All in favor?